What is up, my friends on the internet? Back at it with another video, and on today's episode we are talking about the Triumph Tiger 900. I absolutely love this motorcycle, but if we're being honest, there's a few things that I don't love about this motorcycle. So in today's video, I'm gonna go over the top 3 things I dislike about this bike. But because I do in fact love it, and this channel is a place of positivity, we're gonna round out the video with my top 3 things I love about the bike. We'll give you a little bad, we'll give you a little good, because that's the reality of owning a motorcycle. Nothing is all bad except for these ones, and nothing is all good except for these ones. But yeah, let's get into it. Like I said, I absolutely love this bike, but there are a few shortcomings with it, and we're gonna get into those now. And the one that jumps out to me immediately, and it's kind of the most glaring issue I've seen with this bike in the about 2,500 miles I put on it or so, is that the plastic bits, like the fairing style stuff, is just kind of janky. For instance, this front fender rattled loose at about 500 miles. Granted, this bike didn't get in for its 600-mile service until about 1,600 miles, but when it got in for that service, it was tightened up and left there nice and snug again. But after, I don't know, a few hundred more miles, it's loose again. Not as loose as it was before, but still, that's not great for a bike that cost you pushing close to $20,000 once you factor in dealer fees and whatnot. And even here, not loose, that plastic on plastic is just rattly and not good. And then it's the same with these little winglets here. They make the bike look sporty. They help redirect some of the radiator air stuff going on. I know that they're there to shield the radiator and make that area look better and potentially make it function better, because there are 2 of them. But this is also just really cheap and janky, right? That's not great for the money you pay. I don't know how I would have had them improve this, maybe by connecting it here. I realize that the fan is pulling air and channeling it out of there, but something better here, like mount it more on the bottom, mount it more on the top. Maybe this gap shouldn't exist, I don't know, but this isn't it. The next thing I hate about the Triumph Tiger 900 has got to be the key location. If you're looking at it from this angle, you can see that it is completely tucked up under this tank bag that I'm running here. And this is a tank bag that's designed specifically for this bike. So this is as good as fit is gonna get with this. And it's not as simple as, okay, just don't run a tank bag, right? Because for one, this is a bike that is an adventure bike. You're supposed to run luggage on it. So everything should function around the presence of luggage. But if you see me here, I can barely get the key out. Like, I have to pull the other keys that are on my key ring out of the way, wiggle a little bit, and then get it out of there, which gets annoying every time you're trying to stop and start. There it is, it's in there. And you turn the key, right? That just sucks. And even if you take the bag off, which I'll do now, this is a pretty quick release bag, doing this one-handed. And even if you take the bag off like so, and just have other things on your key ring, they get all tied up in the little nooks and crannies, and it can be a nightmare to get your key in and out still, just because there's so many little spots for things to settle into. That's just not great placement. I would have liked to see that either up around here somewhere where it could just be more out of the way, or even do some sort of like cruiser style side mount thing, or maybe even just raise this whole thing up a bit. Yes, it would kind of be near the bars more, but at least you could access it without having to dig your hand into like a little cavernous hole. When we mentioned this at the dealership, the guy at the dealership said that lots of people have complained about that, and on some models it's even worse. So he said this one is kind of middle of the road from the bad one. So I guess that's a cup half full kind of look at it. And the last thing I don't like is the built-in USB socket. It is a USB Type-C socket on the handlebar, which is super convenient in theory. The thing that makes it not so convenient is that it doesn't actually work all that well. I realized that I had an issue with it on my last trip down to Florida. I had a cable coming straight from here into the phone on the quad lock, and I realized that from running music and sat nav, I was dropping battery life while going. I realized I wasn't gonna have enough battery life to make it to Florida, even with being plugged in, which is kind of rare for me, right? This is my normal setup. It is a cable running from the USB Type A socket underneath the seat on my street scrambler. It feeds into my tank bag where I keep all my little camera bits. Cable pops out here into my quad lock and my phone. I've used this setup a million times running music and sat nav with no issue. The battery always charges to 100 and stays there. And this is kind of a more rudimentary system, right? So I assumed that the system on the Tiger here would be better. When this is plugged in and working at idle, it works flawlessly. But as soon as you start moving, it wiggles itself loose just enough to where it's not making a great connection, and it's just on, off, on, off, on, off, and you're not getting a consistent charge here. A lot of people in the Triumph Wrap forum have said that the solution is a little connector bit that runs USB Type-C and turns it into USB Type-A, and then you just run that straight into it. So C to A to C again, right? That apparently, I'll throw it on the screen here, that apparently is the solution. I have not ordered one yet, but I will soon, and I'll let you guys know if it actually works for me. But it has seemingly worked for a lot of people in the forum. But as it sits, this is completely worthless. So what I've been doing is running a battery pack in here that pops out of there straight into the phone. And generally, if I start my trip with that pack charged up, it goes pretty well. In a pinch, you can use this charger to charge your phone if you're not moving. So when I realized that my problem was going bad and I wasn't gonna make it there with directions, I pulled over to eat some food at a gas station and left it plugged into that, just sitting here with the battery turned on. And it did charge pretty well, but that sucks. It should work while you're riding. And just like myself in the wintertime, the plot thickens. I have that little bit now, so I'm gonna throw a cable in here, get on the bike and test some function, just so we can wrap that little portion up and see if this is actually the solution that I believe it is. And then after that, we're gonna get into some pros about the Tiger 900. And I'm happy to report that I started the ride with 93% battery life, and while running navigation, having my phone unlocked and running music, this charging cable managed to get me to 96% in just a short 20-minute ride, so it appears to be working perfectly. The only gripe I have is that this plug doesn't fit into this thing perfectly. Like, if you push it all the way in, it doesn't go flush, so there is some exposed metal there, which doesn't give me a lot of confidence about how it would work in the rain, but time will tell. As of right now, it is a win. I like it. And this little bit was like $6 or something. This is a cable I already had, so not too bad. I wish that would have worked from the factory, but c'est la vie. So if we're being honest, that isn't only the top 3 things that I dislike about this bike. That is the only 3 things that I dislike about this bike. But there are many, many, many things I do like. The 3 and 3 format for this video was actually decided by the fact that I could only come up with 3 things that I don't like about this bike. Granted, those 3 things are pretty big to me, just from a fit and finish standpoint, like I would like better. But overall, this thing is a bang up motorcycle. So now we're gonna roll into the things that I love about it. The first thing I love about this bike is gonna kind of tie into the last thing I dislike about this bike, and it's just generally how well this bike is equipped for your creature comforts. We'll start with the one that we just kind of left off on, and that is the outlet. Granted, I had to get that bit to make it function properly, but they did include an outlet right up on the handlebar, not tucked under the seat like a lot of models, so that is great. That is way more usable, and it was a $6 fix, so not the hugest deal, but they also sent you out the factory with handguards, something you would spend money to add, heated grips, something you would spend money to add, cruise control, something that you may or may not be able to add on some models, an adjustable windscreen that you can do one-handed. You can just reach forward while riding and change the height of that. And just overall, there's things just littered all over it to make your life easier on the road, including the battery tender that's already hooked up to the bike, the passenger power outlet if they want to run heated gear to their passenger, charge their devices or whatever, big, sturdy, handy grab rails. The bike is just really turnkey, ready to go. This is done. You could buy this bike, hit the road on an adventure the very next day. Easy peasy. For me, I barely ever drive a car, so motorcycles being really usable is something that is really desirable, and this one is that. The second thing I love about the Triumph Tiger 900 is the overall size. I think as a mid-sized adventure bike, this one hits the nail on the head perfectly, especially when it comes to my dimensions. I am 5'11" with a 32-inch inseam, and this bike fits me perfectly. Not only just the seat height, but the reach to the pegs, the reach to the bars, the rider's triangle is so dialed and perfect. I love it. You have a little bit of adjustability in the rider seat. Underneath the seat, there is a bar that you can move to raise or lower the seat. Right now, and in all the footage you have seen, I have it in the low position. But if I was going on a long trip at my height, I might boost it up a little bit just to get a little bit of a more leg extension going on. The bars have a little bit of adjustability in them. You could cant them back a little bit just to give yourself a little bit more reach. And overall, the rider triangle is just really nice, but that's not where it stops. I feel like it's also the perfect overall size and weight for everything it can do. The bike is really lively, and these smaller wheels allow you to really take advantage of that without the bike being too heavy. But it is just heavy enough that when you're on the highway, it feels planted and you're not getting blown around. I'm not sure what witchcraft was at play to make this thing feel so balanced and somehow the perfect weight in all scenarios I've had it in, but it really is. Huge hats off to Triumph, honestly. It feels good in every condition I've had it in. The only condition that I haven't had it in is off-road, and that is coming. I felt like that needed its own video, a full dedicated off-road video. So stay tuned for that. It'll be in the next few episodes for sure. And last but not least, honestly, the biggest reason you should probably run out and get one of these bikes is this engine. The 3-cylinder 900cc engine in this bike is the most fun engine I've ever ridden from Triumph. And I might go on record as saying it's the most fun engine I've ever ridden, period. The engine spins up so fast that you have to remind yourself that you're not on a dedicated sport bike, but an actual big adventure machine, because it is so fun. This bike in the mountains can actually embarrass some people on dedicated street bikes. This thing is so lively, spins up super fast, has good mid-range so that when you're coming out of apexes, you can kind of lay on the throttle and just rev out. So nice. I actually went to a demo day to ride the Speed Twin 1200 because before this, that was the most fun Triumph engine I had ever ridden. I loved that bike. I had been like fawning over it, and it was, for me, in my head, the perfect machine. But I went to a demo day and I rode the Tiger 900 before it, and by the time I got to ride the actual bike I was there for, I didn't even really care because the Tiger was so surprising, so much fun. It is all I could think about. None of the bikes that I went there thinking I was going to be interested in left any kind of impression, but this bike, one that I didn't even plan to ride when I got there, was the star of the show. It just honestly stole my heart. This bike and this engine are just simply amazing.